Dream League Soccer wasn't always what it's like today. Some aspects of the game looked way different until First Touch Games decided to change them, some for the better and some for the worse. But no matter how you look at it, these features were changed or removed for a reason, and it's pretty safe to say that they are never coming back. So here are 8 features that we will never see again in Dream League Soccer. The first feature we will never see again is a large transfer market, just like the one we saw in Dream League Soccer 2019. Right now in the current Dream League Soccer, the transfer market only consists of 9 random players, and only 2 of which are legendary, a pretty huge downgrade if you ask me. We used to get 78 players in our transfer market, with 5 legendary rated players to purchase every time we cycled the transfer market back in 2019. And not only that, back in 2019, we used to be able to see every single unavailable transfer and even search for players. In a game where it's not explicitly clear to the new player that some players do not exist in the game, I think it would be useful to include a way to see available players, if you ask me. But hey, I guess that's just how it is. We've had this type of transfer market for 3 years now, and so it doesn't look like First Touch Games has any intention of bringing back the old, larger transfer market where you could search for players. So this is a feature we will never see again in Dream League Soccer. And while we're on this topic, another feature that First Touch Games tweaked in Dream League Soccer 2020 that we will never see go back to the way it used to be is player development. We will no longer see the ability to choose which players we want to develop. If you have only played the new versions of Dream League Soccer, believe it or not, you used to be able to choose which player you want to develop, and you coach them with coins instead of gems because, well, they didn't exist yet. Being able to pick the players you want to develop made the coaching experience way better because players in the process of upgrading their team will still have lingering common players that they do not intend to keep for much longer. If we could choose which players to develop, then we could just avoid these common players and move on. But now you either have to save your coaches until you intend to keep every single player on your team, or risk wasting your coaches on those extra common players. It's going to hurt to never see this feature ever again, but player development has cemented itself in this way with the coaches and not being able to pick your players. So once again, that's just the way it's going to be. We will never see player development the way it used to be ever again in Dream League Soccer. Next up on the list of features that will never come back is creative players. Now this one I was a little bit on the fence about including because there still might be a slight chance that they do come back, but it's been long enough for me to believe that we will never see them ever again. This feature was first introduced in Dream League Soccer 2018 and only stuck around for 2 years since they were removed in Dream League Soccer 2020. In Dream League Soccer 2018, we used to be able to create any player we wanted and play and upgrade them like any other player. And what I liked most about them was that it allowed us to create players that weren't in the game, like Classic and Bundesliga players, giving the game a more authentic feel. Creative players basically became Dream League Soccer's identity back in the original version, as no other football game offered this feature. But it is a new era and creative players are just too risky and it's easier to just get rid of them altogether. Which is why we will never see creative players ever again in Dream League Soccer. Okay, so this video is starting to get super sad, so why don't we talk about some good changes that First Touch Games made, and there aren't many, but we'll talk about them. One feature in particular that I am thankful we will never see again is CPU events. Now this one is debatable on how good the change was, but I do prefer online events over CPU events. In Dream League Soccer 2019 and the beginning of Dream League Soccer 2020, events used to be played exclusively against the computer. This completely removed the competitive edge that we now get from events, and they were basically just another way to grind for rewards instead of feeling as if we earned them by being better than other people. I do want to believe that this change was well received, and since they made this change just a few months into Dream League Soccer 2020 and haven't changed it since, it should be First Touch Games' intention to keep online events, making offline CPU events a feature we will never see again. Moving on to the next feature, and this one is again debatable on whether or not it was good or bad, but I still think it was good, and I'd be glad if I never saw this again. And that is being able to upgrade every single player to 100 overall. Believe it or not, back in Dream League Soccer 2016 to 2019, if you put enough player development on any player, they would become 100 overall. This resulted in original player ratings being basically useless. The only thing that would be useful is that they would get to 100 overall faster. So in Dream League Soccer 2019, the best team to have in the game ended up being just a bunch of tall players whose initial rating didn't matter because they could be upgraded to 100 overall. My best player for a while was a fully 100 rated Koulibaly who was 204 centimeters tall. I do think First Touch Games realized what type of game they created with this ability, and now players can only be upgraded to plus 10 of the original rating, and that's how I believe it should be. Because now players will actually play with the superstar players on their team because they will be the highest overall, instead of just a tall common player that they upgraded to 100. Capping the development of players has been this way for 3 years, and the game feels way better this way, so I feel like it's pretty safe to say that we will never see being able to upgrade any player to 100 overall ever again. So now that we talked about a few features that I'm glad to never see ever again, let's go back to ones that I would like to see again. And the next feature on the list is legends, classic players, or icons, however you like to say it. In the original Dream League Soccer, you had the ability to purchase classic players on your team. It cost 500 coins to unlock them, and then a bunch more coins to buy each individual player. It was truly amazing to be able to play with all the older legendary players as well as upgrade them, but sadly we won't ever see them again. First Touch Games no longer have the license to have all the classic players in the game, and I don't think they will be acquiring it anytime soon. This is just how reality is, not always how you picture it. Another feature we will never see again in Dream League Soccer. We are now approaching the end of the video. We only have 2 more features left to discuss, and this next one is pretty sad. It's not getting coins after releasing a player. Or rather, the feature we will never see again is getting coins from releasing a player. Before coaches, agents, and gems were a thing in Dream League Soccer, we were able to get coins for releasing a player. I personally like this feature, and it would be great to have now, especially because the transfer market cycles on all games except Exhibition. If a player you want finally shows up in the transfer market and you don't have enough coins, you can't do anything about it. But in Dream League Soccer 2019, you used to be able to sell your existing players to get enough coins to buy them. Getting the option to release your players for coins is something so useful for Dream League Soccer players because coins are how you build your team. But with the addition of gems and coaches, you will only ever get a coach when releasing a player, which means that getting coins when releasing a player is something we will never see ever again. Now finally, we have made it to our last feature that we will never see again in Dream League Soccer, and I did want to leave it on a positive note. Dream League Soccer has changed so much throughout the years, and it's incredible how far it has come. With over 100 million downloads on Google Play alone is a huge accomplishment. So even if we never see some of these features ever again, I still feel as if the game is morphing into the ideal game that First Touch Games has been wanting. At least, I hope so. So the final feature we will never see again is hacking in unlimited coins. I am so glad that First Touch Games finally did something about players cheating in coins, then playing online against other non-cheaters, making it extremely unfair. Now, of course, getting rid of hacking doesn't truly level the playing field. There are still players who played at the beginning of the game before all the many nerfs to progression that have an advantage over the newer players. But at least there's no more hacking. I know I'm ending off the video with what is not really a feature in the game, but I thought it would be nice to take this moment to appreciate what First Touch Games have done. Hacking was a big problem for Dream League Soccer, and First Touch Games got rid of it so we can finally enjoy the game the way it was meant to be played. We will never see hacking again in Dream League Soccer. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Those were 8 features we will never see again in Dream League Soccer. Some good, some bad. So, you know, Dream League Soccer is changing. It's just the way it's going to be. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.